Guys, again, this show is brought to you by Logi.io. Check out Logi.io. Good pal of the stream made the intro song for this, and hopefully I've talked to him about making some more stuff for us, so we're going to find a way to utilize some more of his stuff. But check it out. And also big shout out again to Mr. Suff. Really appreciate all the work you did for the rebrand. Let's move on. Greg, what do you want to talk about today?
Okay, so I guess I think this is my third or fourth time on here. I can't remember. I guess it might be the third because we lost one.
Yeah.
But we talked about things that you like in video, like what are some of your favorite video games, and like what kind of payoff do you want to see in a video game? Like what makes you keep playing? And then last week, although we lost it, we kind of talked about a little bit more of like just straightforward design, like why are some like tropes always recycled, and like why do we see less unique worlds? So I kind of want to talk kind of like capstone it with the overall thing that I think kind of binds a video game and makes it a memorable experience, and kind of gives you like some segmentation in terms of genres and how games play out, and that's pacing. So when you're like playing through a video game, and the cinematics versus the side quests versus the collectibles, what game kind of utilized pacing that kind of fits your taste best and really kept you engaged full on?
Oh, wow.
I feel like you'll have like a good answer for this. I'll let you take the lead on it.
Okay.
Sure.
Were you talking to me or Greg? I didn't catch the very beginning.
Oh no, yeah, I meant you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Oh man, it honestly, a lot of it just depends on the time. There are a lot of factors involved in this, for me at least. As with everything in games, it's always based on my mood,
Yeah.
like what you want to play, what you're feeling, if how.
It's all subjective. It's crazy subjective.
Yeah.
Yes,
but,
it is.
All right. So what
very much
immediately
so.
jumped out to me with like pacing, when you think pacing, you don't necessarily think of open world games, but I immediately thought of like the Fallout series. And the reason I thought of the Fallout series is because you kind of make your own pace in that game. So you can kind of do whatever you want in the sense where you're like, all right, I have a main quest line. I could go try and do this main quest right now. But like, ooh, piece of candy. Ooh, piece of candy. Like, what's this? And then, the danger of that, and I've talked about this in relation to Witcher 3, is you kind of have to train yourself in how to pace yourself through the game so that you don't get personally like bored or like fed up with the game. But the way Fallout always worked for me is like every place I always came across, I was like, I want to explore this place. Let's check it out. And then I would like do that for a bit, and I'm like, all right, I'm getting too distracted. Let's go do a main quest or a side quest or try something
I feel
different.
like that's because Bethesda did a really good job of crafting that universe.
Yeah, they really well for me.
Like,
Even
they made it interesting. Like for Witcher, it's kind of like I don't know. For Fallout, it's like a different thing because there's not a whole lot of those kind of games where it's like a MMO and post-apocalyptic, apocalyptic type stuff. But like when you have like The Witcher in that same like kind of light, I mean that's been hashed out before. Like you have that like kind of high fantasy type stuff all the time.
Yeah, yes and no. The thing I would say that's the difference between The Witcher and the Fallout series is what they tell, the storytelling that they do through their setting. So like, let's say you're going through The Witcher, you're like, oh, there's a bandit camp, and The Witcher still does this sometimes, but you'll go in like, hey, it's a bandit camp. You clear out the bandits, you get treasure, and sometimes, most of the time, there's like a letter written there, or like a smudge, something to give some background to why people were there. Like, hey, like, there were bandits here, and there were dead bodies there before, and then on one of the dead bodies you find a letter, and it's like, oh, Isabel, I can't wait to like move in with you and blah blah blah. So like this guy was obviously going to move to visit his, or like to see his love and like be together and blah blah blah, and they got jumped by bandits, and like bandits set up camp there, and you're like, oh, okay, like that gives a story. But after a while, like you see enough of those, and you're like, all right, I don't care anymore.
It's just rehashed bullshit.
Yeah, you just keep going and
Right.
going and going.
Yeah.
You're just like, all right, where's the loot? Where's the loot? In Fallout, it can definitely be that way. But the way they tell the story with their setting is sometimes you're like, you'll go in and you'll see like skeletons placed in a certain way, like on a bed. Like you're like, oh, these people were doing this when the when the bomb dropped,
or
or
the
like
Fire Nation attack.
Yeah, when the Fire Nation attack. Or like if you do the Wild and Weird West Wasteland thing, or there's like a perk where you get to see more weird stuff. But like there's an homage to like Indiana Jones where you find a guy who's hiding inside a refrigerator, or you go in places and like mannequins are placed in weird ways, and you can kind of see, like, it does more storytelling like that. So every place you go to see in Fallout, you're like, I wonder what's behind this door. So like it keeps the pace like high enough that you want to explore all these different areas to see what's behind door number 1. I have to know, like, that kind of thing.
Well, I think that kind of stems from the fact that the Fallout universe is more relatable than the example of The Witcher. Like, it's much more relatable because it's a real life situation, like, that could technically happen, I guess, more or less. I mean, you don't have to suspend your disbelief like that far to be engrossed in the Fallout universe. Whereas in The Witcher, it's like a totally different like fucking thing where there's like goblins and fucking like whatever else is in that game, like griffins and shit like that, you know? And I feel like that has a lot to do with it because they can add those really cool like elements to the game because your disbelief is not suspended that far. It doesn't take that much work to get you engrossed in the game because it's already something that's tenable and believable.
Yeah, I think also Fallout does a good job of making you like some of like the monotony of like those huge open world games can be the crafting of things and just like feeling the need to get all like the small trinkets and such. I think Fallout does a good job of kind of making you want that payoff and want, like, you feel like you should and want to craft items. And I think they do a really good job of that as well.
It's funny too, because as I was saying that, I actually thought of I was playing the Blood and Wine expansion of Witcher, and during one section they actually did some, like, they've actually improved upon the game a bunch in some of the expansions. Like, I found I went down under this building, like I blew out this wall where like a house had collapsed and like covered off this wine cellar, and there were all these rose petals and candles on the ground, and at the very end of it there were 2 people that were like dead because they apparently were like, the one dude was trying to set up a romantic evening for him and his like wife or lover, and then the house, the foundation collapsed and they got stuck in there or something. And I was like, oh shit, that's one of the, like, that's actually what kind of made me jump to Fallout initially. As far as like more like traditional as in like story-based games pacing, it just depends. I thought Uncharted 4 was paced very well. It did a good job of, it's all about the balance of like story and exploration these days, because there aren't really any true linear, like, I mean, there are linear games you can find.
I mean, Last of Us was pretty damn linear, and that was paced pretty darn well as well.
Well, that's the thing is, yes and no, because it kind of let you, like, it was linear, but it let you go in these kind of like open areas and try and figure out how, like, it did eventually funnel you down to a path, but that's what Naughty Dog's kind of been doing better than anyone else, is like giving you the feeling.
Funneling you into a path is linear, though.
Yeah.
No, I'm not disagreeing. I'm saying it's linear, but what they do that is so good is they make you feel like it's open. Like, you'll, like, in the very beginning of The Last of Us, like, you come out, you're meeting that one dude to try and find a car or something. You can walk through this whole section. You've got 3 different paths to get you like to the same place. Essentially, you can decide to like go up on top of the buildings or like down below and like disarm a bunch of traps.
I'll give you that. They did a really good job of making it have that feel of openness.
Like, or in winter,
a mix of stealth and combat. So like,
so they kind of had to give you like a little playground to kind of figure out.
You had like agency over like. Yeah, you had agency over where you went.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you're still trying to get to the door.
Same thing.
Yeah, at the same time. So like, but what they did, but keeping that illusion alive is kind of what they do better than anyone else, almost.
Right.
And Uncharted 4 did a great job of that too. Like, in their open areas were even bigger, and somehow I found myself not, like, I would find my way the objective. I was like, oh shit, this area is big, and somehow I got there.
The one thing that pops into mind is I think it was it Uncharted 4 that had like the little thing where you're driving in a Jeep around?
Yeah.
that felt like huge to me when it was in that area. Like I was like, dude, I don't know where the fuck to go. Like
and
I don't know
and
where
you
I'm
just kind of
headed in
like
this
found
area.
your way there, like naturally almost. It was crazy.
Yeah, that was weird. Yeah, that's the one thing that like immediately pops into my mind is that particular spot in the game.
I think there's a lesson to be learned from Naughty Dog and how they do that. Whatever we want to define it as, even though it is linear, like it does have some, player choice involved. I think that there's a lesson to be learned there because that keeps it engaging because you don't really lose yourself completely and, just are like, I'm kind of sick of this. Like it keeps you really well engaged. Like I think like for the most part, Last of Us was a game where I didn't put down the controller until I was forced to because I didn't actually own a PS3. I was playing at a friend's house. So when he was like, "All right, come on, man, let's just go like have a beer or something," and I was like,
"Nah,
dude, you want to go grab me one, and I'll meet you there,"
Yeah.
And that really worked out well for that game, and just I didn't actually play, or I actually haven't played through any of it. I've just kind of watched a lot of it, and I don't know. I really appreciate the way those games are built.
A good game knows when to step on the gas and when to let off.
Yeah,
and I don't mean to just sit here.
Great at that.
Yeah, I don't mean to just sit here and fillet Naughty Dog. There are other games that do that. Like BioShock is a great game that does that. The first one, I have my own problems with the first game, and then it kind of did the same thing that a couple other games have done. Like Mass Effect series, like becomes more of a shooter as it goes on. Like Mass Effect 3 was like much more of a action RPG than true RPG, like Mass Effect 1 was. But BioShock Infinite, I think, had incredible pacing.
Yeah.
The BioShock games did a pretty good job at pacing. I feel like it was just enough to keep you engaged, but it wasn't overwhelming.
Yeah. Well, it keeps you at this high level, and like just when you're about to be tapped out of adrenaline, it like lets off the gas, and you're like, whew, all right, let's look around through this and like explore some of this area and this cool environment they've created real quick before it steps on the gas again.
Yeah, that's one thing that like we were talking about GTA I think 2 weeks ago, the story mode of it essentially, and about the characters and everything. And I think that's another like area that lacked in was the pacing as well, because like that game, like there were some like awesome heists, but they were so far in it, like in between, and like you do these like dumb missions with like Lamar just shooting up people, and it just felt so redundant, and like like there wasn't really like the payoff or the pace to like kind of push you into that mission, like the story mode, and like really get you involved. And by the time you did, it was already over, that's something that game really just kind of like failed on, was like building itself up and like keeping the player engaged.
I feel like a lot of the GTA games though aren't focused in the way that I would like them to be.
Yeah,
because I feel like in a lot of the games, or at least like I haven't played any of them before 3.
Okay.
But I played all the campaigns, whatever.
GTA 1 and 2 were top down, like 2D shooters. They're way different.
Well, yeah, I guess that's fair. But I played all of them from 3 on, and I feel like all of the games struggle with having that like focus thing. But I also feel like that's kind of like their signature of just like trying to take like this kind of slice of life, sort of like gangster-esque or whatever, like mobster gangster-esque kind of like, this is what it's like, like sometimes you are doing like stupid menial shit like robbing a convenience store or whatever.
But like in San Andreas, like there was even missions where you're playing as a gangster that was driving around an RV car to like shoot people, and like it was like an incredibly tedious mission, and it just completely destroyed the tempo of the game. Like because you kind of wanted to see like the ball is like kind of fall, and like Franklin and everything, or not Franklin, I forget what his name was.
CJ.
Yeah, CJ. But like I just kind of like dulled out like halfway through.
You think all black GTA characters look alike, Greg? Is that what you said?
Wow.
CJ Franklin? Wow, man.
Yeah.
Damn, dude. No, I'm just kidding.
They're all made with the same. Everyone's made with the same pixels. Everyone's equal.
Yeah, good recovery.
All pixels matter.
Jesus.
But,
all right.
That's one thing that I liked about old games, like Ocarina of Time comes to mind. Like especially because when boss fights were still a thing, I think that really like kind of built in kind of awesome setups to different like parts of the play, because you'd get through like a dungeon or something like that, you'd get like a new item or unlocked thing. And Mr. Suff brought up in chat the Tomb Raider game. It was kind of the same, because once you went through one of the tombs, you'd get like a new thing that you get to like implement on the next thing. So you want to test out that thing, and by the time you like kind of got involved in using your new cool gadgets or whatever it may be, you're already halfway through the next part, and you want to like see the payoff of that. So I think those type of games also like do a really like fantastic job of keeping you engaged.
I think I'm on the opposite side of the fence on those kind of games where it like works you up to finding a new like tool to add to your arsenal. I don't particularly care too much for those games. Not that I don't enjoy them, but I don't like them because it just seems like it's super played out. Like I've played all those games. Like I know, like after I finish this section, for example, like a Metroid game. You take Metroid for example, like Super Metroid or whatever. Like you play through a whole section and you get your like your bombs, or like you get, these new missiles. Like every time you go through a section, you're like, okay, I'm going to get this new tool. I'm going to get this new thing. Like every time you go through a section, I feel like that really trains like this really weird kind of response from the player, from the player's perspective.
Kind of gets to like diminishing returns.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really like games that are like, do all this and you get this new thing. Like I don't really like that. I feel like it can be better implemented. I feel like those kind of like new tool things can be implemented in a better way, where rather than it just feels like a reward at the end, whereas it's like kind of like a secondary, even tertiary thing where you're just like playing through the game. You're like, oh shit, now I have this to add to my arsenal and I can use this in these situations. But having it at like the end of sections, like where you go through an entire dungeon or whatever it may be, and you get like, oh, I got a flamethrower now. Like that's what you get at the end of this thing. I like it when it's implemented in a way where it doesn't feel like reward based. I guess it feels more natural.
Once you start stacking those, it kind of like gets tough to like boost into the next one when it's like kind of going to be that sort of thing where like maybe you got the most OP gadget at like after the third phase of it, and then by the sixth one it's kind of something that's like tertiary and kind of uneventful for the rest of the game.
I guess it's that expectation factor of just like, if I beat this section, I'm going to get a cool reward type thing that I don't really like. Mm-hmm. I mean, it works in some games. I will say that. Like, I'm not going to, paint with a broad brush here. Like, it does work with some games, but I feel like here recently, like, I can't really speak to the Tomb Raider games, but I feel like that concept wouldn't work. Like, and one that I have played, like Assassin's Creed, like where you beat like a mission and you're like doing something and you get like, oh, now you have the dual blade, like hidden blades, and now you can assassinate two people at once. And it felt like you got that after every mission. It was like, oh, now you got the concealed gun, or you got the blah 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 thing. And it was just kind of like, it's played out. Like, I know I'm gonna get something new at the end of this mission, or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of droned on me. I don't know. I don't really care for that kind of stuff.
A few things to everything you guys just said. Agree with you totally, Greg, as far as GTA goes. But those games were all, like, kind of never about pacing. It was all about like the freedom of just like doing bullshit, and, like trying to get the craziest stuff to happen. Like, even look at the GTA Online stuff we do. Like, half the missions are like, all right, let's start this mission with a 10-minute drive to whatever you've got to do. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like that definitely.
That's not very good pacing to start off with. Like, it's like, yep, drive to this thing.
Right.
Yeah. Like, some of that's really bad, like poorly designed, because it's based upon like where the apartment is, or wherever, where the clubhouse or whatever it is you're starting from, especially in GTA Online. And then in as the worlds have gotten bigger, it's gotten worse, because if you look at GTA 5, like, they have to fill, especially in like the single player, they have to fill up all that space with like conversation, and then on online they fill it through like phone calls, and you're just like, sometimes you're just like, I don't even want to listen to this, but I know they have it there just so I'm not just.
And then you have to drive 7 miles across the map.
Yeah, like the bulk of your mission is just like doing nothing or driving.
Yeah.
And it's just incredibly grindy.
Yeah.
Slows down everything.
Also, to what Mr. Stuff said, also, again, shout out Mr. Stuff for graphic stuff. Absolutely. Tomb Raider, I totally agree. And I thought about mentioning it, but we talked a bunch about Uncharted, and they're kind of similar games, and they play off each other. Like the first Uncharted is very obviously like a rip on Tomb Raider. Well, it's like, hey, let's make Tomb Raider again, but for PlayStation, like Naughty Dog did it in their own way. And then Tomb Raider came back, and you saw a bunch of stuff that Uncharted did correctly, and like their platforming and gunplay and like sneaking and stuff, and put it into Tomb Raider. And then Uncharted 4, you look at that, and now they have these open areas on the map rather than like a truly like just linear path. Like those Uncharted 2 and 3 were actually Uncharted 1 to 3 were pretty linear games. And then you look at Uncharted 4 and they opened it up a bit, and they definitely took notes off what Tomb Raider did.
Oh, they made like super strides on 4. 4 was
4 was phenomenal. But
I played all of them right in a row, so it was like a really nice like contrast of like seeing each game.
Yeah. What else? What else did you get? What else did you guys say? What other game? Was there something else I'm missing?
I was like talking about like Ocarina of Time, like the long shot and like everything like that. Like that always felt like because everything that you got kind of played into the mission that you were a part of, and then like kind of played you forward into the next kind of phase.
Well, you almost
with the exception of the water temple, because fuck the water
temple. The water temple.
Fuck the water temple.
Yeah, amen.
I almost wasn't gonna drink water ever again.
Just swear.
I was so sick of it. Like that was probably like, okay, maybe that was a bad example of a game, because that was probably the worst thing ever in terms of tempo in a game, because it took 5 hours the first time I ever played it when I was a kid, maybe even longer. And but
we talked about the reward base, like finding the next thing, end of the level type thing.
Okay, yeah.
What's your take on that? I would like to hear that.
I think, well, as with everything, it has to be implemented in the right way. Like you look at a game like Doom did it the right way. Like it gave you a new gun.
Doom was very simple though.
The newest Doom, is that what we're talking? Yeah. But it was like, all right, it was like very self-aware in the way it did it, like the pacing of that like it was obviously pedal to the metal. It was but it would give you a new gun. Game. But the thing is, it would give you a new gun, and it's like, all right, here's a playground. Like when you unlock the BFG in that game, the big fucking gun, like it knows, like they know what you want to do with the BFG. They know you want to blow shit up. So as soon as you get the BFG, these doors open and there's like 50 enemies outside there, and you're just like, oh fuck yes, let's fuck some shit up now, let's do it. So like sometimes I think that like if you get a reward at the end of it and it's meaningful, and that's a very simple example obviously, and it's meaningful and you get a chance to like use it without beating you over the head with it, like having it introduce some new mechanic that's completely changing the game, I enjoy that. But sometimes
there were really no new mechanics introduced in that game. There wasn't anything like crazy game changing.
I know it was all on the weapons and like how there was just like there were different power-ups that you had to get towards the end, and like different like teleporters and stuff like that.
I have to vaguely disagree with you. Like I feel like that game is too basic of an example, because that game in particular is just like
Ratchet and Clank
running gun the whole.
I was gonna say Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah, Ratchet and Clank does that really well. Like the new one, all the old ones.
I haven't played that one, so that one's.
They give you a new gun and new items, and
I feel like that the whole crux of that game is like the gadgets and stuff, though, right? And
this is what I'm saying. Like, it's right. It's good in the right places, but when games give you something and then they like beat you over the head with a new mechanic or a new like weapon, like you have to use this for like the next 20 to 30 minutes, and then it's not as significant after. Like sometimes I feel cheated by that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
I'm trying.
And a lot of it is how they implement it too. Like sometimes like you'll like, especially Assassin's Creed was shit with this too, is they'll like give you this like I didn't play Doom yet, which is a travesty, but like the way that you set up the BFG with like giving you 50 enemies to kill, that's awesome. The way that Assassin's Creed gives you a new weapon and then spends 30 minutes giving you a tutorial on it is absolute shit.
Yeah. I liked like the first like 2 or 3 Assassin's Creed games, and I really liked Black Flag.
You know what has terrible pacing? Assassin's Creed 3.
Dude, it's
worst fucking pacing.
awful.
It's like 4 hours of tutorials. It like treats you like you've never played an Assassin's Creed game before. And even if you hadn't, it was forever. Yeah, I was saying, but even if you hadn't played one, it would still be like egregious.
The first one's bad with that too. You start off as the most badass assassin in like the entire clan or whatever it's called, tribe. I don't know.
Rips all your shit away.
And then, it rips all your shit away. It's like, all right, well now you got to get back to the awesomeness you got to experience at the beginning.
Yeah, I hate when games do that too. Like you're ultra powerful and like this is what you could be, and then there's like,
it was like that with Metroid Prime. It was like you had all your shit, and then all of a sudden, like, oh yeah, you're nothing. Bye. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sucks to suck.
Brutal.
Get fucked, kid.
Yeah. I like one of the middle of the road games that I have it's kind of I like the pacing, but it's kind of weird. Was Gears of War. It's like one of my most highly regarded series games as far as stories. Like I don't know, I was really attached to that game series, but it's middle of the road pacing for me because it felt a lot of times like it was just spoon feeding me a lot. I was just kind of like, oh yeah, we gotta do this mission. It was just kind of like a little bit, and then there's just a little bit. Like it just felt like it didn't progress the way that I would have rather it progressed. I guess I don't know. It's all kind of like retrospect because I haven't even played the first one in probably like 7 years or
right. Me either. So. But I have to say one thing that kind of like ruined the pacing of that game for me was I wanted to play with the long shot and I wanted to play with the torque bow, and I never got to.
You don't get though. Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like that's why I kind of like sometimes the gun stuff. It's like it's kind of like the opposite where that game would have benefited from giving you some cool shit because it was pretty monotonous in terms of combat and the missions.
Yeah, like you think about like the context of the game is like a giant like war between the locusts and like the humans, right? And you get to like a certain point in the game and like all of a sudden the long shot gets introduced and you're like, okay, now the long shot's here. Why didn't they have it in the whole other 15
and you get like
parts
10
of this game?
And there's no more ammo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you'd like hoard that gun and you like hold on to it like for that entire section, and then you'd like fucking never get to use it because you're like, oh well, I didn't want to waste all the ammo, but then you realize like at this one cutscene now it's gone, and now you have the shotgun. You know,
and all the locusts had the same weapons as like the cogs. It was so weird.
Yeah, like the cog assault rifle felt almost exactly the same. Like the hammer shot almost felt exactly the same as the
hammer burst, bro. Come on, dude. You're not even a real fan. Get out of this conversation.
All right, I'll let it go. Well, the reason I would say that they didn't let you use the torque bow all the time and stuff was for pacing. Basically, they didn't want you just blowing through everyone by giving you something too powerful. Yeah, and it was supposed to make it. It was supposed to make it feel. It was supposed to make it feel that much more special, like when you got a torque bow.
Yeah, but the Hammer of Dawn was sweet, and you barely ever got to use it.
Yeah, the Hammer of Dawn always annoyed me. Annoyed me because it'd be like you use it, and they're like, "Oh, we're out of charge, or we're out of range now," and you're just like, "What? Like, come on!" It's just like
a laser. It's like freaking laser beams on the freaking heads.
I love that movie.
Someone throw me a Band-Aid or something. I'm really, really hurt.
I'm really hurt.
One more example
I'm not
from the
dead
chat.
Down here.
Suff is talking about in A Link Between Worlds, each dungeon required 2 specific bits of gear. Then on the final boss, you only used your sword. And that's definitely...
Oh, that's kind of lame.
Yeah, that's definitely lame. Someone else just brought up the original Mega Man, which I'm actually playing through on YouTube. Check out the YouTube channel.
Mega Man.
And that's probably an example of a game that does it right, because the whole point of the game is you need to like kill the right boss to take the boss and get the other boss's weakness, quote. You know
counter,
what I mean? Yeah, find the counter to the other boss. So like that's an example where they kind of do it right. Like here's your one-off.
It's a really weird thing to take into account now, like this, 20 some odd years later or whatever, because back then games had to be like that. There wasn't choose your. I mean, that was like as good as it got as far as choose your own destiny of like what you do.
Yeah,
like that's as good as it got. Like there was no like do whatever you want and nothing really matters besides that. That's all you had. So I don't know. It's a really weird example, but I did like the pacing on that is good, but I also have to look at the context of the time and maybe it was good.
Yeah, context is everything. I would say the pacing on a lot of older games is actually probably better than it is now because they were
the platform was so simple.
Yeah, because the platforms were simple, so like the linearity kind of loaned itself to like better pacing, or they had to like form a game around the pacing or else
yeah, you like
or
think,
else no
think
one would
about
play it.
Mario. You
Simply
fucking
didn't have the technology to fuck
your
it up in
princess
the-
is in that castle, like that whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks. And then now looking back, you're like, oh yeah, not in this castle. Yeah, get fucked. Like, you know, if this was like a Witcher game, like you could have picked the first castle, the right castle the first time, and it would have been over the whole time.
Yeah. To put a bookend on this, people are now talking about Assassin's Creed in chat. My problem is Assassin's Creed that Greg and I talk about all the time. They should have never killed Desmond. The end. Like, should have never done it. They just like took away the most interesting storyline in that whole game and just shat on it, and that was it. Like, so.
Yeah, I got. Is that what happened? What game?
Yeah, in the third one.
Three after three.
But what really sucked about it,
and then they killed
Mr.
Kristen
talked about
Bell's
the two games,
character as
is
well.
In Brotherhood and in Revelations. Brotherhood had some of the best
Brotherhood was
mechanics in the game, but
Brotherhood
the
was
storyline
great.
was a write-off as well as Revelations.
Oh, I love Brotherhood.
And you lose the cool shit that you get from those two games in the third one. And then also there's like some major plot points that happen in Revelations that they don't even tell you until they don't even ever explain in 3. So if you didn't buy Revelations, you don't even like see some of the progression of the storyline. It was like, it was so dumb. It should have been DLC. Nobody should have even bought them.
Yeah, it was in a really weird era.
I don't know why I bought them.
It was in a weird like golden heyday. Like, hey, let's take advantage of all the IP we have and sell as many games as possible.
Yeah,
they tried to squeeze water from a rock.
Yeah. Hold on. I mean, I'm not up to scuff. I don't know. Like, it's probably time or whatever, but I'm not up to scuff on my Assassin's Creed stuff. But I thought Desmond was in Black Flag, wasn't he? No.
I don't think so.
They might show him.
Or maybe I thought. No, I guess I'm getting them confused. I played them a long time ago, so maybe I'm just fucking it over. But
they have like the supporting cast, like Sean, and then the one girl. I can't think of her name.
Black Flag was the best one for me.
I didn't like the ship combat that much. It was too slow.
The fucking pirate shanties.
There are 8 Assassin's Creed console games, I believe.
Was the best.
Someone's asking how many Assassin's Creed games are there?
I think there's 8.
All right, so there's 3, 1, 2, 3, Brotherhood, Revelations, Unity, Syndicate, and then they've got those 2 random ones too.
And Black Flag,
so that's 8. And then they have 8, when Unity came out, there was another one that came out on the prior consoles at the same time. Liberation.
Liberation. I beat them all.
And then they have a bunch of
they killed off Desmond. No, that's fucked. I didn't.
Yeah. They basically.
It's not spoilery for me.
It's been years. If you don't know now, like, you probably don't care too much. But like, they basically retconned them out of the story so they could stretch it out and make it more convoluted and like they took everything that they were building up to and just shat on
him in it. Dude, I feel like they could have written him in it and kept it going.
And the way they did it is they had him kill like Kristen Bell's character and then like sacrifice himself. So they killed off like 2 important characters from the present storyline.
And half the player base was just playing for her ass, you know, and like that's something that you have to take into account.
Yeah, I think we'll leave it at that. All right, go ahead, grab a beer while I plug some stuff, guys. Check out Logi.io and support the people that support us. Logi.io. He's a sound designer, music producer, real cool dude. And I'm glad to call him a friend. And he out of the kindness of his heart, made a really cool intro for the G&G cast. Also, shout out to Mr. Stuff. And as soon as he has like a place we can point you to, we'll have that up here as well. Who for doing all the graphic design on here. Very supportive, very cool, and really excited for the future of all the stuff we're doing here.